Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to the very first episode of a wonderful, wonderful series we're going to be starting here on the Jake Talks Capes channel. We're going to call it Fans Casting because it's just fan casting, but there's going to always be more than one of us. I've decided today I'm always going to have someone on to talk nonsense with while we fan cast our lovely, lovely superheroes and comic book characters. My guest at this time, Ewan from the main stage, everybody.
Hello, how are you doing? Do you know what it is? So many people just know me from music stuff, so this is like a totally new side that no one's ever seen before. This is going to be an interesting one to see how people respond.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I'm very happy to have you on. First guest here on the Jake Talks Capes channel. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be casting the first class of X-Men. So for those unfamiliar with the first class, it is Professor Xavier, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, Beast, Angel, and Iceman. We're going to be looking at all six of these characters. We're going to be thinking of the sort of traits that we associate with them, and we are going to then pick the actors that if Kevin Feige phoned us tomorrow and went, lads, I'm done. Yous can be in charge of casting the mutants. Yous can be in charge of doing this. Who do yous want? Let me know, and I'll sort it for yous. We're just going over our picks. So first of all, my lovely, lovely guest Ewan has provided lovely, what will we say, introductions to every character.
Basically, it's more just like it's just like a brief for me of how I would want these characters to work. You know, I think like it's all well and good casting people, but if you don't have a dynamic in mind, it's gonna fall apart, and you're gonna have too many cocky, arrogant lads. You might have too many sad boys. Like you need to pick who. There's dynamics here. Everyone needs to play a different role.
100%.
But yeah, so I've given myself 6 little briefs.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've also then on the back of that as well, I have a little note here, just with a few traits and a few things that make these characters tick as well. So we'll go through. We'll get Ewan's brief. I'll run over the bullet points on each character, and then we'll get into our runners up and our actual picks. And I'll just say, when I was looking through it, I've got 11 names down for Xavier. I've got one name, but I've got 10 people that I'm like, they could do it. So where better to start than Charles Xavier himself? Ewan, take it away.
Okay, so for me, Xavier's a weird one. You essentially want someone to play a football manager, right? You want someone that's going to play fun games, make entertaining choices, make the right subs where useful, sometimes be a little bit risky, but he needs to be able to keep his dressing room. It needs, the X-Men need to be a loyal machine, and they need to have a good game plan. And obviously these films, they're going to have issues through these films, but you need to believe that outside of these films, when they're tackling the, everyday challenges, they can get through those with ease. They're a well-oiled unit. They know what they're doing. Maybe some of his decisions are a bit questionable. I think a sketchy Xavier is always really fun to go with. Someone that's
I'm the same. That's one of the things I've noted down.
For me, a sketchy Xavier where some of the kids are maybe a bit like, why are you making children fight for you, is a fun way to go about it. And ultimately, I want there to be a level of morality where he at least knows that he at least thinks that he's right. And on top of that, he's trying to get the best from his team. Maybe they don't care about the bigger picture. Some of those guys have just gone to school and ended up in this military group. So, he might some of those guys, you've got to work on bringing the best out of them individually as well as a team. And I want to believe that this Xavier is invested in his group outside of work. I want to believe that these guys want to do a good job for Xavier. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they've gone on a night out and Xavier's interested in the details. I just want to believe that there's a reason Cyclops and Xavier are this type.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, with the little bullet points I've got, it needs to be stern but fair. It needs to be intelligent, obviously. It's got to be charismatic. It's one thing you kind of touched on. We need to believe that so many people fight for his cause and specifically fight on his side of the cause. We've got to believe.
And you're not and no one's saying. Yeah, and no one's saying that none of his students are going to question this. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be one or two that go, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. That's a lot of the stuff you'd get with a rogue or maybe an Iceman. Of maybe we're not doing the right thing, but he needs to at least believe that he's right, and he at least needs to be able to argue a case.
Another thing as well, he needs to be flawed, and he needs to be accepting that he's flawed, because that's one thing I've got for Cyclops. Is Cyclops is incredibly hard-headed and very rarely will change his stance. Xavier needs to be, maybe not always changing his stance, but Xavier needs to be a lot more open to other ideas.
Yeah, he's the sort of guy who wants to learn.
Yeah, he's obviously the figurehead of mutant liberation. He has to sort of feel like a civil rights leader. And the last one that I think is very important, he has to be a dick. I'm not saying he can't be lovable, but he has to be a dick.
Yeah, I do like sketchy Xavier. I think that's like a really fun thing to do. It's like where you know that he's up to something and there is a good reasoning for it, but like maybe his methods aren't, maybe he's a bit too direct. You almost want them to feel like some sort of protest group. You know, like with the Just Stop Oil stuff, and you go, they're maybe doing the wrong thing, they're going the wrong way about it. We need to believe that Xavier can get it.
Exactly. And I think as well, one of the key things for my Xavier is, like, it's one thing that I don't, like, I feel like a lot of sort of, it's one thing that kind of gets lost in a lot of kind of modern iterations of the X-Men. And it's very simple. He should feel like a head teacher. He should feel like the head teacher in the film where he's like, if you don't fuck up, then you're never going to make it to uni. And he's like giving people detentions and things. He's got to be harsh but fair. And that's got to extend past the school. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through my runners-up. As I mentioned, I've got 10 of them here. And then I'll throw it to you for your runners-up.
I didn't actually put any runners-up down. I didn't put any runners-up down, but I'll probably think of some on the spot. If you drop yours, and I'll chime in if I come up with any.
So my 10 runners-up, because I just started writing names down. Bryan Cranston. Think that'd be good. Honestly, to be honest, if you want to give James McAvoy another shot at it, I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I like McAvoy. I like McAvoy and Fassbender.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're two names I have down. If you want to give them another shot, like, I'm not opposed to it, although I would like, someone a little bit different. I think Mark Strong would be a very good shout here. I think if he hadn't just showed up in the Captain America Brave New World trailer, I like the idea of Giancarlo Esposito here. It's finally letting him play not a bad guy. And then again, you've got Sterling K. Brown, I think would be really good here. Jeffrey Wright would be really good here. Andrew Scott is one that I kind of thought was a little bit out there, but I quite liked. Brendan Gleeson as well. And then I said one thing, I wanted to feel like a civil rights leader. Coleman Domingo, who obviously played Bayard Rustin in the film Rustin, and David Oyelowo, who played Martin Luther King in the movie Selma. They're all my runners-up. I think any of them would be amazing, but I have one in mind, and he's always been, and I've never had anyone else come near it for me. It's Ray Fiennes.
Oh, interesting. I would never have gone there. I feel for me, he's more of a Magneto. He's a bit like Giancarlo Esposito, where I maybe go down the Magneto route with it.
See, I've seen someone say him as Magneto, and I was like, I like that, but I just think he can obviously do it. And I think, well, for me, one of the big things is when we do this again for villains, one of the very, very important things for me is Magneto to be played by a Jewish actor. I think it's one of the highest profile Jewish comic book characters ever. I think it's very important that a Jewish character or a Jewish actor plays him. And Ray Fiennes isn't Jewish. But then the more I started thinking about it, I was like, I actually think he's got the gravitas and he's got the pull and he's got the sort of, he's got the stature that I would like Xavier to have.
You can see him not just being a complete knobhead. You could see him kind of getting along with his team. And you could see him in that sort of football manager role.
Exactly. That's my pick.
My pick is one of your runners-up. I'm a firm believer in Mark Strong for Xavier.
Yeah, Mark Strong's good.
He looks the part. I think he's got the demeanor for it. He's intimidating enough for you to believe that he could possess powers like that, and to possess, like, he's intimidating enough that you could believe he has the final say. But at the same time, he feels, and like by default, he'd be playing a very firm, like, headstrong Magneto, like, get the job done, don't ask questions. But then also get that side to him where he's like, he can be that fun, caring, nice guy.
Yeah.
You can see him going for a pint with his students and like being interested. And one thing I also say I would love, I don't know if it's been done before. I know McAvoy is Scottish, but I would love a Professor X with a firm Scottish accent. I would love Mark Strong to be in that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, as you say, one of the things I really like about McAvoy is in the First Class movie when you see him like kind of outside and doing things, and like he's in the pub and stuff.
Yeah, it's like that first scene in the pub where he's chatting up girls. Like I think that's so. Because it's a different side that you'd never.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that I feel like as great as Patrick Stewart's was, we got very little sort of insight into the human side of what Charles Xavier was before the injury in the school and things like that. But then I also think, I think Mark Strong could be that. I think, like I say, I think all those actors could do a great job. Mark Strong is definitely one that has been on my radar for a very long time. I just think when I thought Ralph Fiennes, I was like, I think I'd rather see that personally.
I think as well for an MCU, I think Mark Strong's the guy that they kind of would be gravitating a bit more to. Someone that's just a bit more fun. They've got a bit more of a moldable thing, like a bit more familiar thing. Where I think Ralph Fiennes, if this was like a James Bond casting or like something like that, then I think they're tempted to go for a Ralph Fiennes. Yeah. But I think for an MCU,
I also think as well with the plan with the X-Men probably being for the next 10 or so years, you maybe want an actor that is a little bit cheaper. Mark Strong would be a little bit cheaper than Ralph Fiennes. But like I say, I think all of everyone I mentioned would be a great pick, and I'm very excited.
Another big thing for me with Xavier is I don't think he should be the star actor. I don't think the focus should be on him. I think your focus needs to be on one of the X-Men. And like in terms of the 6, I don't have much star power, but there's one where I've gone, okay, we need an A-list.
Let's go to Cyclops. Your blurb, please.
My blurb. So Cyclops for me is like the Ronaldo of X-Men, right? So if we've said Xavier's your manager, Cyclops is your Ronaldo. He's clearly talented. He comes into this, he's young age, very clearly talented. There's so obviously something there. And he will very quickly become the best of the best. There's a reason that he's the first pick on every X-Men team. It's because he is that level of mutant, and he's very much the golden boy. Like I feel like the school scenario or in whatever scenario we've got here, he's going to be that sort of character that like you either want to be him or you want to be mates with him. And I don't think you can do that if he's going to be like a snarky, like a twatty guy. I think he needs to be a nice enough guy to the point where Jean Grey would not immediately be put off by the fact he's arrogant. Do you know what I mean? I think he needs there to be a charm there. He needs to be likable. And, as time goes on, the fact that he's like the thing that makes him maybe a little bit arrogant, a bit that, the other guys seem to sort of resent him. For me, that's not that he's just a twat. For me, that is the idea that like he's so undroppable and he's so knowledgeable about what he does that like he's got to be there first time, and that's where the resentment comes from. Because it's like, instead of rushing into things, Cyclops is going to be the guy that's very thorough. Like he knows what he needs to do. He knows how to get the best out of this, and he knows the level that they need to function at and what it takes to function at that level. And I think maybe that commitment comes across as like egotistical or maybe too by the books, but like it's planning and abundance that has made him the best. And I think that's what gets in the way. But I think there needs to be an emphasis here on people want to be this guy. Like people want to be around this guy. He's not just some complete arsehole. Like he's got to be. I
think like for me, one of the things that I don't love about what we've seen from Cyclops in the movie so far is that like he never feels like the leader, and I understand that was because the studio was like, well, Wolverine's cooler, but I just think with Cyclops, like one of the things I've got down here is that like he's got to have a backbone, he's got to stand up, and he's got to be hard-headed, and it's that way that you say he is so knowledgeable about this, and he is like the one who's been there the longest, and he's the golden boy, and because of that, whenever his authority is challenged, he needs to be able to go, no, sit down, I've done this, I know this.
It is like. It literally is like the Ronaldo Man United situation where it's like obviously you want to try other things, but he is that guy that's been there and done it. So But at the same time, like,
maybe like it's to a fault as well. It's not always like he is obviously like it can cause issues for the team, but that's just the way that he is. And I
he's
think
very much that trust the process type guy. He's going to be that guy that's like sort of trust the process, it'll work out. Obviously very firm, very like willing to let things play on until they go wrong. But I think
he's like, Steve Clark playing 5 at the back with an injured Kieran Tierney is what he is.
Literally, yeah. I don't want that firmness to look like he's. And I want him to very much be that guy who like people like to be around. To be that guy that is the team because obviously this is a very like male team. I don't want all the other guys on the team to hate him. Like, he should be one of the boys. Like, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't even have to be the greatest leader. Like, he just needs to be
especially not at the start.
I know it's like he just needs to be a nice enough guy. Just like the same thing with Xavier, where these guys want to play his side and these guys want to back him and go, you know what? Yeah, don't ever speak to my mate like that.
100%. So a couple of other things I have here in my sort of key Cyclops traits. He's got to be hard-headed, got to be a leader, got to have a backbone, doesn't run from a fight. He's troubled, but he doesn't really let it show. Like I say, he believes in his convictions to the point he's very unlikely to change his mind. And I think the most important thing for him is you have to believe that he will always make the difficult choice, even if everyone hates it, because he knows it's right. And that one specific trait is what made me pick my Cyclops. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run through my runners up, and then I'll get to my Cyclops. So my runners up, Glenn Powell. I think Glenn Powell would be great.
Yeah, that was one of the first. That I kind of thought of that quite early on. I didn't go with him, but that was one of the kind of.
John Boyega. I think he'd be fun here. I don't know if he'd do another big franchise. Taron Egerton, I also think could be fun here. I just think he's a little bit smaller than I would like Cyclops, just stature-wise. I don't think, obviously, that's not the end of the world. I just don't think he really has the stature.
I don't think Cyclops needs to be built, but I think he at least needs to be tall.
Yeah,
for me, he's not Wham, but he's definitely taller. He's athletic. He's got like a football build rather than a rugby or a wrestling build.
I think as well, if he hadn't been in something, and I think we may see him going forward as a sort of multiversal enemy to to the person that he played in another universe. I think Miles Teller could be fun here. Although I think we're probably going to get him as like an evil multiversal Reed, probably just for fun. One person
that's a really good shout. Yeah.
One person I thought of that I liked, but I like them as more of the kind of one thing that I hated with a lot of kind of modern X-Men, especially with the way that Cyclops was treated in the last movies, is they kind of made Cyclops like a bit of a whiny bitch sometimes, and some people kind of think that that's like a bit of his thing. And one person who like played someone who got a reputation for being a bit of a whiny bitch sometimes, who I also think would be a lot of fun here, is Aaron Paul.
Interesting.
He's just a little bit too old.
Yeah.
But for me, there is one scene from another show about superpowered kids in a school type setting, kinda, that has a Cyclops scene. Have you watched The Umbrella Academy?
Oh, I've watched bits of it. I've watched like the first few episodes of the first series. I need to carry on. But
at the end of the first season, Luther, big monkey man guy, locks Vanya in a soundproofed room because she like learned that she has powers and starts going evil. And he locks her in there to save the world, and that basically causes the end of the world. And he like knocks her out, and the whole family's like, "No, we can talk about this." And he's like, "No, she's too powerful. She'll kill us all." That is the choice that Cyclops has to make. So for me, Cyclops should be Tom Hopper from the Umbrella Academy.
Nice. Okay. Is he not like a massive though? Is he like a bit built?
I think he's like a bit built, but he's got like a big suit on for. I mean, he's obviously got a suit on for the Umbrella Academy. Like, I think he is a little bit bigger than Cyclops is typically portrayed, but I don't think he's not built. You know what I mean? He's not built like a Batista or like a Sam Richardson.
Right. Yeah. Got you. So obviously, you said that you had like a bit of a smaller option for Cyclops. I wouldn't say smaller, but definitely like not. He isn't going to be this like powerhouse type guy. Like I said, he's like my pick is very much like the footballer build, where he's quite tall, athletic looking. he can run. Do you know what I mean? He could do a 10K. I've gone with Brenton Thwaites from Titans.
Oh, yeah.
I think he massively looks the part. He's attractive guy. Like, don't get me, good looking guy.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to sell tickets. People are going to get involved.
I like that.
There's one shot specifically in Titans, and I think they're in like the Batcave in one scene, and he's wearing this dark blue button-up shirt, and it is like it looks perfect. It is that if I'm editing this, I'll whack that photo in. But like, he looks the part. He's done the like headstrong. Like his whole thing in Titans is being that headstrong. Like he's not the youngest one there, so he very kind of takes that lead.
Yeah.
Very headstrong, very like knows the decisions to make. Does sometimes get it wrong, but he is very much that firm, straight guy. But I also can believe that people would get behind him and like him. Do you know what I mean? Like when you see him in that show and he's like talking to some of the older members of the cast, like, you can see that there's a good chemistry there, and you can see that people would like to be around this guy.
Yeah.
So that's my pick.
I like that. So 3. We'll go on then. If we're talking about Cyclops, we've got to talk about Marvel Girl. We've got to talk about Jean Grey. Hit me with it.
So for me, Jean Grey is like the HR department of the X-Men, right? She's crucial to this team dynamic. Like she ain't going to be this person that's loud, dishing out orders. She's very understated, but you know that quietly she's worrying about people. You know, she kind of cares. She's the first port of call. If you don't like a decision that Cyclops and Xavier makes, Jean is going to be the first port of call. At the same time, though, I don't want her to feel very fragile. There's got to be an edge. You've got to be able to not necessarily the main focus, but there needs to be a belief in the audience that this girl could and is learning to absolutely destroy the world. Possibly, you need to believe that she knows that and is aware of that. And if anyone
one of 2 Omega level mutants in the first class, one of 2 Omega level mutants, so that's something as well very important.
You need to believe that, you know, she might be a bit quieter. She's much nicer, much more caring, but at the same time, she isn't drawing attention to herself. She's very much. It's one of them where it's not all of the X-Men need to be there to benefit the X-Men. Some of the X-Men are going to be there because being on the X-Men benefits them and their progression and learning their powers. And I think Jean is the perfect example of that, where she's not too big for that team. The X-Men benefits her by being there, and she is Xavier's right-hand woman. She plays off her team. She's the person that acts as almost like the Messi. She acts as a vetting system. If Jean don't want you there, you're not going to get in.
And I think as well, one thing that you said there, there are some people who kind of maybe outgrow the team or maybe don't feel like they have a real place on that team, but that is not Jean. I think the team helps keep her grounded, especially as, you know, the avatar of the Phoenix Force and could possibly destroy everything. The team is one of the things that keep her low and safe. Yeah, it's for me, if you look at a couple of things I've noticed, she's got on you.
If you look at a Cyclops or a Wolverine, they are very much there to benefit the X-Men. The X-Men could do with having laser eyes and this mental guy with claws. Whereas for Jean Grey, her powers aren't necessarily benefit X-Men directly, but it almost helps her. It's almost like she's there as practice. Do you know what I mean? For her, it's all warming up and training and becoming better herself.
So a few of the things that I've got here. So she's the closest to Xavier. She's essentially, as another telepath, her and Xavier sort of share a lot of similarities and are very in the comics. So I mean, someone who feels friendly. And on top of that, she's kind of the mother to the team and the group. She's the one, the glue holding it together a lot. One thing I've got here, some other things I've got. She's got to feel on top of the motherly thing. She helped run the school. So she's got to feel like someone that people can look up to. Obviously, being part of the Phoenix Force, she's got to feel powerful, and the level of her power has to be really, really apparent. It's got to be someone that feels like a big deal and that everyone listens to, even before the Phoenix Force takes over. I also think with her being an Omega level mutant, she can sometimes feel isolated from everyone. So she's got to be an actor that that can kind of benefit from having scenes without a lot of people working off her, because I think she also works really good at isolation. Obviously, she's kind of a mother, but not really, because a clone of hers had kids, and other timelines of hers have had kids that have become into the main line. So she deals with all of the pressures of being a real mother. So that's something that we could maybe tap into later on. She's got to feel like she can snap at any time. And then she also needs to feel like someone that the younger mutants look up to, and she needs to set that example. And there's that pressure there, which will eventually.
For me, it really is as simple as she's got to be that mother, got to be like the one on the team that cares about everyone, make sure everyone's safe, but at the same time is carrying this enormous burden over her and trying to hold it all together, trying to hold the team together as much as her own sanity. So I've gone with very much that vibe.
Yeah. So for me, I've got 4 runners up here. I think Karen Gillan could be fun here. We saw kind of some of the mother dynamic, especially the mother out of time dynamic in Doctor Who with
Jumanji as well.
I think especially like with River Song and the whole mother out of time and meeting her daughter in various points in time, and like you have that with Jean and Scott's children from other realities and things. I think Emma Watson could be fun here. Saoirse Ronan could be fun here. I just think she looks a little bit younger, and I just don't think she looks as old as Tom Hopper.
I do have someone I would cast as Saoirse Ronan, not in this group, but Saoirse Ronan definitely fits into my mutant universe type thing.
I'd say my number 1 runner-up is Rose Leslie. She does a lot of the sort of Jean, like the fun Jean in Game of Thrones is Ygritte. I just don't think we've seen enough of that. But my number 1, I just kind of get a vibe off of like everything I've seen her in with that like caring, motherly sort of thing. And I know she's not really motherly, and it was very, very caring in a film I only saw for the first time this year, Baby Driver. It's Lily James.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's younger than I thought. Okay.
I think Lily James
she's a very young face.
Yeah, but I think you can. Lily James she's 35. Oh, wow. So I think you can sort of just maybe, play about with the hair and makeup and make her look sort of her age. Because to be perfectly honest, I was so sure I was going to click on that and she'd be like 29. I was like, you could age that to 32.
Yeah. So mine, I've gone like a really different route. I've gone with Eve Hewson, Bono's daughter.
Oh, I'm not overly familiar, but I've seen.
So I've not seen her in anything, to be fair, but I know the kind of stuff she's in, and I know kind of what she does, and she's in things like Killing Eve, sort of British, like a bit dark. Like she very much strikes me as someone that like can play
that sort of understated darkness, and then we sort of ramp that up.
She's very much. Yeah, she very much is giving. Holding it together like that. And the other thing with her is like, for me, when I picture like a real life Jean Grey, if I look at the 90s cartoon and I picture like Jean Grey in real life, because we talk about Sophie Turner. She looks like an older version of Sophie Turner. She's she looks the part. The only thing you'd have to do is she's not ginger, that exists. But like, I definitely could see her being that glue that kind of holds them together, but also having that darker side that she maybe not talking about as much.
100%. Like I say, for me, so I've not watched through all the second gen X-Men movies, but like from what I've seen and heard, like Sophie Turner is doing the best with bad material, and I'm not like overly against maybe letting her have another crack at the whip, but I also think with everyone, I've just picked someone brand new.
For me, with those more recent ones, I don't think. Do you know what? I don't think any actors are bad. I just think it was generally not great material. Yeah. I don't think this is a really controversial one. I'm an avid. I think Apocalypse is fine. I actually quite like Apocalypse. I don't think it's as bad as people make out. And I think if they'd have just had another film between that and Dark Phoenix, or not Dark Phoenix, I think the resulting series that we would have got would have worked out much better.
I think from what I can understand, the biggest issue with Fox's X-Men universe when they like reset it is they were like, oh shit, Avengers have just brought in Ultron and they've just done like Civil War.
Yeah.
Let's do this thing and then this thing and then this thing and then this, instead of just giving us sort of films to bridge those gaps.
Yeah. Well, because for me, like Apocalypse, I don't think Apocalypse is the issue. I think Apocalypse is bad because of what it led to. I think if we got a better film after, I don't think we'd view Apocalypse as badly. I think the CGI in Apocalypse is really decent. I think the cast are really decent.
I remember like Apocalypse not being like shit on when it came out, but I remember people being like, yeah, it's fine or whatever. But I remember the hate for Apocalypse ramped up quite a bit after Dark Phoenix. So I think with Dark Phoenix, as you're saying, from what I understand, makes it retrospectively worse.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big issue there, is you just sort of don't give these stories time to breathe, and that's kind of what led to the downfall.
For me, though, at the end of Apocalypse, they end the film and it's this shot of like essentially what they're going to do as their new premier X-Men team. It's going to be like, you know, you like your main team in these X-Men, and it sticks with that team, and that's the team, and we go forward with that. X-Men Apocalypse ends with a really cool version of like a X-Men team to go forward with. The issue is then that it doesn't go forward with it. Because you've got like by the end of that film, you've got like Cyclops, Jean, Quicksilver, Nightcrawler, and Storm, and that's your five. And then like all properly suited up in the comic suits. And then the next film, like Quicksilver's out of the film because injured. Like Quicksilver's immediately out injured at the start of the season. Like, so Sophie Turner's fine, and I think Eve Hewson just looks like an older version of her.
From looking, if I'm going just off visuals, 100%, Let's see we end on a big one. We'll end with Beast. So let's go to Angel. Okay. You said you're a fun Angel cast.
Okay, so for me, Angel is like obviously the most expendable one here. Like when you list all these characters out, Angel is very much the one that people don't know as much. He's also the most likely to be turned into a villain and killed off first. Like that's going to happen quite quick.
I think for me, I've kind of got here in my notes that eventually he gets sort of de-winged as presumed dead and then becomes Archangel and becomes one of Apocalypse's horsemen. And I like that, and I do want to lead to that story. But I also think in the comics, when he's de-winged and he's presumed dead, it takes a while before he reemerges as Archangel.
Yeah.
So for Angel, we can kill him off, and then we can bring him back in 3 movies when he's presumed dead with Apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
like so it's for that you don't need a character, you don't need an actor that's going to have. You don't need to give someone a massive contract. You know, this can be like a 2-film job where this actor comes in, plays Angel for 2 films, and that is it. You've also think about like eventually they're going to want to bring in like your Rogues, your Gambits. To make room for those, Angel is going to be the first one out. It's just how it's going to work. So for me, like I don't have a problem picking someone a little bit older because you need them for less time, or someone a bit more like unattainable. And so far on this, I've not picked any real A-listers. So for me, Angel is that character where you go, okay, let's bring in an A-lister and get some tickets sold. For me, Angel is very much like the comic relief. Like he's not the little brother of this group. I think that role would go to Iceman. But for me, Angel is like the dumb, hot older brother. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not. So he's like he functions exactly the same as how Booster Gold functions for DC. He's like the dumb hot guy.
Booster Gold, man. Love Booster Gold so much.
Literally. So for me, and I think a good route to go down with my Angel. This is probably going to give away who I'm picking. But I love the idea. Go for it.
I was just going to say before we jump out, I just have my little bullet points here as well. We'll just bash through these. So Warren Worthington III is a sort of heir to a big family fortune. He feels rich. He feels like spoiled. As you say, to me, he kind of feels like the cool uncle a little bit. If Iceman's the little brother and if Jean's the mum, he's the cool uncle. That's the way that I always see it. I don't think he's necessarily unrelatable
for me.
But
I just had a funny thought. For me, Cyclops is Greg Heffley, Iceman is Manny Heffley, and Angel is Roger Heffley. That's kind of how this formulates for me.
Yes. Oh, this is what you come to the Jake Talks Capes channel for, baby.
We got Roderick Heffley of the X-Men.
Yeah, hell yeah, with his van. So so I don't think he should necessarily be like unrelatable, but definitely should feel slightly out of touch. I think as well because he's like a rich boy, he shouldn't take orders well, and I think that should lead to a little bit of friction with Cyclops. Not enough, not a lot, but I do think he should be a little bit. Like there should be a little bit of attention with Cyclops because I've kind of went for someone around the same age, and I don't think he should necessarily feel like a real romantic rival for Scott. But I think maybe in the first movie you could play on like Cyclops' insecurities as leader of the team because we have this gorgeous hunk who can fly also on the team with lots of money.
And that leads into the end of my brief, and the end of my brief really does give away who I've gone with. But I feel like it's so fun to have like an Angel that you can see off and he's his own little escapades away from the team and things maybe aren't going the way that he likes them to be. You know,
like for me, I think Angel should feel like if it's, as you say, if it's not going his way or if he gets bored, he's like, okay, I'm going to go back to my mansion in the hills with my millions and millions of dollars and I'll come back when I'm bored of that.
For me, Angel is like your kind of literally me incel type character where he's like, he is an attractive guy, but for some reason things just aren't working out for him. And like you almost kind of feel bad for him, but you almost kind of get it because he's such a dick. And he kind of that dichotomy of like maybe at the start Scott does feel a bit threatened by him, but then you realize later on that like Angel is just as much like it's just this complete loner and
and like just as insecure as Scott as well.
Yeah, if not more so. So that kind of leads me directly in. Like, we're looking for an attractive guy. We're looking for an attractive blonde guy that can play an incel. Can I make it any more obvious who I'm going with? Ryan Gosling. I think Ryan Gosling as Angel would be crazy. Because you can imagine him with the little wings. I think that would be really funny. It is a bit of a rogue choice, but like, just imagine him doing like. Imagine Angel being just Ken.
I like that.
And it's well that like kind of incel-y loner vibe. I think that works really well because then like it will be funny to watch. It'll be like, in Fall Guy, where it's like funny to watch him be a loser, but then when he does switch, it's not going to feel out of place when he does switch sides. So I do think like Ryan Gosling as well, like I said, I don't really have any real A-listers here, anyone that's really relevant. And there's going to be one. Fantastic got Pedro Pascal. Like you're gonna get someone that's like in the public eye, and he doesn't have to do many of them.
Yeah. So for me, I've kind of went the things that I've looked at is got to play a rich boy well.
Yeah.
Got to do that well. They've got to, like I say, feel human, but like a little bit kind of unrelatable almost. They're my kind of two, and then my third is I think they've got to be attractive because Angel is just an attractive character. So my runners-up, I've got Dev Patel. I think that could be quite fun. I don't think necessarily race is a big issue here. I think anyone who fits this bill could work. I think Dev Patel would work here, but just not as much. And I also think I would like to see him do other things, one of which I'll get to in another video. I think Ncuti Gatwa, Doctor Who, Eric from Sex Education. I've just read him. I have spoiled him as one of my Iceman runners-up. Never mind. Although I also think he could play here. He could honestly play here too. As you say, if you want an A-lister and someone who probably won't do many of these, you could do worse than Chalamet. I just don't think he's big enough for Angel. But I think he could sort of bring
for me, with Chalamet, there's like 3 or 4 X-Men characters that he could play, and I won't go...
Realistically, he should play
Chalamet's Nightcrawler
because he looks like a little freak. Yeah, but like he's not going to go under all that makeup. But he should be.
And if not, one of my other choices for Iceman, I've not gone with him, but like Chalamet's another choice for me for Iceman.
Yeah.
Where he's like little brother energy.
Yeah, 100%. I think someone that could play here, Alex Pettifer. He was obviously in the first Alex Rider movie and like some other stuff. Apparently, he's just a bit of an asshole and a pain to deal with on behind the scenes. But I do think he could play here. I think he kind of fits that bill. My number one runner-up, who was my pick until we came on this call, and I spied that one of my runners-up was actually in my brain much better. Regé Jean Page from Bridgerton. He kind of, from what I understand, kind of plays that. So in the Nando v Movies fan cast video, where it's just I also picked Tom Hopper, not from that. I saw that years ago and watching the Umbrella Academy, and I was like, that's Cyclops. And then I watched that, and he said, and I was like, let's fucking go. But he shouted Regé Jean Page, and I've not watched Bridgerton, but I've spoken to people who have, and like, that's very much kind of his vibe in it. Although my pick is someone who, like I say, can play a sort of clueless airhead rich boy.
Yes.
Have you seen See How They Run?
No, I'm intrigued as to where you go with this.
Harris Dickinson. He was in The Iron Claw. He was in Triangle of Sadness. You'll know him when you see him. Harris Dickinson is my pick for Angel. I think if you watch See How They Run, See How They Run specifically, he feels like a less capable Angel. He feels like very dumb and sort of bumbling his way through it, and I do think Angel should feel capable. Yeah. But then he was also in The Iron Claw playing David Von Erich, where like you can see he can kind of take control of situations when he needs to. And I think
that's the thing for me. I don't mind a less capable Angel because I'm thinking there's got to be like a real reason for him to need upgrades when he becomes Archangel. So like for me, I'm like, I don't mind if Angel's a bit less capable. Like realistically, he's got wings. Like that is a funny power, and it's like it's looked fun on the screen, and that's why I think you want to go with someone that's like a bit
someone
more
with
like a
and with comedic chops as well.
Yeah, that's where a lot of my Ryan Gosling stuff come from, because imagine just like the first time his wings come out, you can imagine that being like just a stupid moment.
So I already spoiled who's going next because I read out one of my runners up. Let's talk about Iceman.
Iceman, I've not actually got a brief for him. I didn't get around to it, but I think it's pretty obvious. He's very much a little brother. He's one that might not necessarily stay in your main X-Men team. I think like later on, if we start multiple going at once, I very much think Iceman could lead like a young X-Men team, or like a, if they want to make up a team of like some of the younger characters, Iceman's going to be your character that leads. He's almost like in some cases, you could play him as a second, like you could play him as another Scott, or you could play him as totally different, opposite Scott. And I think either work. But I think the core thing is like he's got to feel like a little brother. He's got to be. I don't know. There's a lot of kind of sexuality's up for debate. You can decide like sometimes he's gay, sometimes he's not.
So that's one of the things that's played in for me.
Yeah, so I think at least at the start, have him be straight. If you're going to go with it younger, have him be straight at the start and have that be the point where he kind of needs to discover that.
That's kind of one of the big things, because
actively let him.
Yeah, his sexuality is something that like in the comics has always been weird, and I think that they've kind of only recently nailed on that he is gay, but kind of not really, because in 2015, like a version of him travels forward in time, or Jean, I think a version of him travels forward in time, and Jean reads his mind, and then she's like, "Oh wait, you're straight," and he's like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, my Bobby's gay." Because I know that because I can read his mind. And a lot of his relationships throughout comic history have been with shapeshifters, which is what at the time when everyone was like, "Oh, you're making him gay for the sake of being gay." It's like, well, he dated Mystique and things like that. And I think it's something that I think is, for me, a lot of the actors I've looked at are gay actors, or at least queer actors. They've got to be young. My big things here is he's got to feel like the younger brother. He's got to be the class clown, like playing pranks and not taking it serious, but like has to be told, like, lock in here. He's got to be the youngest member. One thing as well, he should always be constantly trying to prove himself, and to him make you feel like he belongs. And the reason that he belongs is, like I said, he's the other Omega level mutant on the team, which means the height of his powers, there's no other mutant in that power set that has a higher classification of power. So I think that is, like I say, it's got to be someone who feels like he's always sort of catching up or trying to prove himself.
For me, I've not gone specifically with, because for me, like the ideal way of tackling that with Iceman is either, if he is younger, start him off without him being gay. That wants to be like, I feel like that should be a thing we discover in the films. And
yeah,
that's
I think
like
it should. I think it should take place.
You know, he needs to. But like, if we're going for a young Iceman, then have him be like a pretty boy at the start. Have him be like a foot boy, and like let him see and find out, and have it be this huge shocking thing where everyone's like, "Wait, how can you be gay? Like you've ran through the whole school, like that sort of thing." Have that be a thing.
Yeah.
But like,
no, I think he's got to feel, like I say, you got to have that. But I also think as well, like I say, one thing, he's got to feel really fun.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
Like
he's got to be
thing.
like the little brother thing is the main thing I've based it on. If I was going to go for younger Cyclops, if I was going to go for two of my actors, so I've got two here, right? If I was going to go for younger, which I haven't, I've gone for like a more like early 30s X-Men. If I was going to go younger, I would go Asa German from The Boys and Gen V. You know,
I've not watched Gen V yet. Let me have a wee look.
Asa German, he plays Sam in Gen V.
Oh, yeah. I can see.
He very much looks the part. You can see him being like a bit of like a weird, like fun guy to be around. Like you can see him definitely having that. I want to prove myself to the grey. Like my other pick is also he mainly because he looks the part, but my other pick is also a boys pick.
Can I guess?
Go for it.
Is it Jack Quaid?
I've gone Jack Quaid.
Yeah,
he's my.
I like that too. I really like that.
Very much that little brother. Very much going to have like that is his whole thing on The Boys. Is he's the little brother. He's like Butcher's trying to harden him up, and I think Jack Quaid is a really good shot for that Iceman. There's also a photo of Jack Quaid back in the day when he was in Hunger Games, and there's like a photo from when he was in Hunger Games, and it like literally just looks like you see that and you go like something in me clicks on like that's Iceman. Do you remember when Iceman used to have the costume in the films and he had that like really? They all used to wear like tight polo shirts in the films.
Yeah,
it was like he was just wearing the X-Men costume in Hunger Games, so I think that's where that connection's come from. But I think Jack Quaid is like a fun Iceman if you're going to go with an older cast.
Yeah. So for me, I've went a little bit younger here. I've kind of went all actors that can kind of play late teens, but not really. Ideally, these guys should all feel like 23-ish. That's kind of where my aim here. Although if you do want to go for, I just have one here. I've just put possibly a Ninja Turtle kid, as in one of the kids who voiced the Ninja Turtles in Mutant Mayhem. I've never seen.
Oh, I know who you're with. He is a Ninja Turtle kid.
I've just put any of them because that movie's so fun and they bounce off each other so well and they all have such a good energy in the booth and you can kind of feel that as that comes across. So I've put them there. I think you could go with that. I have another actor here, Dominic Sessa. He was in The Holdovers. He's another one of my runners-up. I think he feels very Iceman in The Holdovers, very like always up to no good and always up to a bit of nonsense, but like has a real emotional core in that movie. He feels very Iceman. I think the thing for me is I don't think he's gay, and like I say, I think Iceman is typically one of the higher profile, like gay and queer comic book characters. So I think we should probably cast a gay or queer actor here. So my other runners-up, I've already mentioned them: Ncuti Gatwa, Doctor Who, Eric from Sex Education. I think he could be a lot of fun here. I've got one here that I've never seen him like do this on screen, but I've seen him in interviews and things, and he just is Iceman, and it's Nicholas Hamilton. He played the bully in the first It remake. And he's also a gay actor, but he may be a little bit older now because that first It came out in 2017, so he may be a little bit. Nicholas Hamilton. Oh no, he's 24.
Yeah, he does look the part actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so he's 24. So like I think you can kind of work him in here. He, like I say, plays the bully in it, but I've seen him on like podcasts and stuff, and he's very much up to nonsense all the time. But my pick. Like I say, I've picked a young gay actor who is always having fun on screen and doesn't take themselves too seriously. I've gone for Detective Pikachu and Dungeons and Dragons Justice Smith.
Oh, that's a shout. That's cool.
Yeah, I think he's a great pick here, and I think he's also the pick from Nando in the Nando v Movies video. But I just think he's a lot of fun. My runner-up to him would probably be Ncuti Gatwa. But he's also tied out to Doctor Who, so I don't know if he would do like Marvel and Doctor Who at the same time. But it's fan casting. Who cares?
I'm trying to think who kind of mine. Like I think Jack Quaid is my number one. I think if we're going younger, I'd probably go Chalamet or Asa German.
Okay, so we round it out with the last A-lister on the team here. Let's talk about Beast.
Bear with me, pulling up my notes again.
Let's get the notes up.
I
feel like we should end on Beast because like Iceman and Angel are like not as popular as Beast. Got to keep your attention, babe.
Yeah. So Beast, for me, Beast is very much like, if we're going to see that Jean is kind of very like emotionally intelligent, I think we should go with a different kind of Beast that's just intelligent, and everything comes down to logic, and he's very like almost like very OCD, like he looks for logic and everything. He's not jumping to any brash decisions or conclusions. He wants to analyze his options and work things out that way. For me, a big requirement of like a new Beast. So Nicholas Hoult was really good, right? I think Nicholas Hoult is a good Beast. I just think he's a bit quick. I think he was a bit angry. He's a bit quick to make that impulsive decision and be a little bit of a bitch. Whereas, like, I would have this Beast be the most intelligent person in the room. Don't ever have him lose his rag. My main requirement for a new Beast, I don't want a Beast. Like, if we're going with a modern X-Men, at least, if this is set in the present day, I don't want another Beast that's going to be moping around, upset that he's big and blue. I think that's a good pop. That's like a really good plot, and I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's really fun. But like, we've just seen it far too many times, and also like, if we're bringing in the Fantastic Four, and that's going to be set in the past, we are absolutely going to have that exact same plot point with the Thing, and I think you need to differentiate. The chances are, like, Marvel are going to go down that route with the Fantastic Four film, and I think like if it's modern day, I think at this point there's been like weirder stuff in the MCU has happened than a big blue hairy man cutting about.
For me, one of the things that there's a comic panel that I can't remember where it's from, but I saw it on Twitter, and it like really, really sums up kind of what Beast is, and he's having a fight with, I can't remember who he's fighting, but he's got them pinned down, and he's like, every day I look in the mirror and I see this monster, so why shouldn't I just rip your head off with my teeth? And he's like, I don't do that because I love theater and music and art. And I know at the end of the day, I'm still human. I still read books. So I think, as you say, I don't want a Beast who's like, oh, fucking woe is me. Like, I want a Beast who accepts that is his life, but understands that being sad about it isn't going to change the fact that it's happened. And I also think one thing I want to do is Beast didn't become Big Blue Man until 10 years after the X-Men began. So I want to do at least one film where he's portrayed by a person, like he's not fully CGI. Right. So that way you kind of can eliminate that, like, oh, like, woe is me, because they've done it to themselves. And I want someone who, like I say, because they've done it to themselves, I want someone who goes, this is on me. I've just got to live my life now. Yeah,
exactly. So for me, not even that. For me, I just don't want Beast to be like this sad fucking soy boy that he always is. Like, the Thing's going to do that. Eventually, we're going to get Rogue. We're going to get Nightcrawler. They're going to do that. Scarlet Witch has been doing that. Mystique's probably going to do that. Like, we're going to have so many characters eventually that do that. I won't be surprised if Spider-Man's done that. Like, Spider-Man's done that at points. Miss Marvel's done that. She-Hulk's done that. Like, everyone just does. Everyone's embarrassed to have their powers. And I think this is the point where
even
we can
like
have
Banner as well, and Avengers Banner is very
this is
like, embarrassed of what it is.
Yeah, this is now a point where we can have a character that is like, I'm big and blue, and I'm smart, and I love it, and just have a character who's gonna have fun with that, and like almost have Beast, like, because we were saying like we want a charismatic Cyclops, right? You could almost have Beast be like the lucky twat of the group, who's like, I'm smarter than all of you lot, but you're not going to listen to me, but I'm smarter than all of you lot, and I could also rip your heads off. So, there's that. My original pick, go for it.
So I was just going to say, the wee things I've got noted down here that I think are like key to the Beast and Beast story is, I think one of the things that should really be played on is that his real mutation is being like super strong and athletic. The turning blue is part of like a mad scientist experiment gone wrong that he does to himself. And also, I think him being just a fucking super genius, that's also completely unrelated to his mutation. His mutation is being big and huge and super strong and athletic. So I think we need someone who can sort of have that sort of natural, that like feel naturally intelligent. And also, like I say, one thing as well, he's got to be big because, like I say, I want at least one film before he turns blue. So I want I want a big boy. And I know when he turns blue, it'll probably be mostly CGI, but I want someone who's just a big lad. I think as well, out of the first class, he's probably the closest to Iceman. He kind of acts as like an older brother, sort of father figure to Iceman, always sort of being there for him. I think Beast should also be the oldest of the first class, and I think that's why him and Iceman gravitate towards each other. I think, Cyclops, Jean, and Angel are all in that same sort of age
relatively
range.
the same age, yeah.
So I think if Beast is that little bit older and Iceman's that little bit younger, they kind of feel on the outside and they gravitate towards each other. What else have I got here? I think also he's got to have good relationships with most of the mutants, especially the mutants in the school and in Xavier's orbit. And I think as well, we need to kind of play on, like I've got here, we've got to play off the contradiction that despite the fact he looks like that, he's probably the most human and he's the one who loves life the most. That's what, as you say, he should feel happy, even though he looks like
he
this.
Shouldn't, I want a really fun Beast. Just gonna be, I'm smarter than you lot, so if you don't like it, don't matter. I want a Beast that is gonna take the piss out of the rest of his. Realistically, Beast is the one where you expect everyone to take the piss out of him. I want him to be the person in there that's just shamelessly haha, you lot are dumb.
Yeah, like I say, he's got to. And for me, I think he just has to love his life, and that's one of the things I've noted.
And like I said, at this point in the MCU, there's weirder things have happened than a big blue man walking around. I think you could almost ignore that entirely,
and I think
and just have it be.
You say
just have that be the joke.
Yeah, no one mentions it, or people mention it to him.
Yeah, no one ever mentions the fact that there's just a big blue man here. Yeah, and everyone's just going to complete. It doesn't matter.
So, and I think as well, like you say, weirder things have happened. And I think you can do that with the Thing because that's technically, it's going to be in the timeline, the second movie chronologically. Yeah. So you can have that because when he turns, he hasn't seen all this happen. He hasn't seen all these things happen to Earth and the multiverse and all that. So for me, I'll just run through my runners-up. I've got one of my runners-up here. I've got Joel Edgerton. He was obviously played Luke's uncle in Star Wars and Obi-Wan and stuff. I just think he's kind of bigger guy. He's got that sort of friendly, warm, sort of dad-like presence. I quite like him there. My original pick for Beast has been cast in the MCU, so I'm just going to shout him out here. Okay. Brian Tyree Henry. He's a Phastos in Eternals.
That's a really good shout. So I have two picks here. This is another one where I've got a runner-up. They're both very similar vibe to that.
Yeah. He said it himself. Sam Richardson has said that he wants to play Beast. And I think if Sam Richardson says it, there's no better way to look there. I think Sam Richardson would be very good. I think one of my issues with Sam Richardson is Hollywood has such an issue with turning black actors and black characters into something else, always turning them. So I think that's one of the reasons. If we do cast a Sam Richardson or a Brian Tyree Henry and just pretend the Eternals didn't happen, I do think that would be very important to have at least one movie where we see that the mutation is just that he's big and huge and strong, and then let him become the big blue animal man after.
Both of my picks are black guys as well, so I definitely agree with that being a case. It maybe would have put me off picking them actually, of being I think as long
as you have a movie at least where he is just Dr. Henry McCoy before he turns blue, I think that's a kind of way to circumvent that. But my pick,
not even a whole movie, but not even a whole movie.
Good,
but if we're saying don't even if you have a solid chunk of you go in and it's this guy and it's no, all of a sudden he's blue now, and you don't really draw attention to the. I think there's a way of doing it where you don't draw attention to any of it, and I think that's probably the better way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think obviously there is the argument that if you're trying to maybe not pick a black actor based on that, trying to overlook their merit, I don't think I'm doing that at all. I haven't picked a black actor here, but I do think both of them would be incredible. The one I've went for, and this is one thing that I think I didn't really touch on, but I think can really work here, is Beast. Like I say, he is probably the most human out of them all, but I also think he should also feel like at any moment he could snap and be this animalistic thing. But he, in the heat of the moment at least, because of just his size and his power and his big fangs. And I watched the movie this year with this actor where he just does this sort of quiet, does snap in it, and he's just like he's terrifying in it. I don't think Beast should be this sinister, but I think a lot of what we've seen here plays here. I know this actor has lost quite a lot of weight, but he's still quite a physically bigger guy. I've gone for Jesse Plemons as Beast.
Okay.
He was my original pick for the Thing as well.
Right. So picks. Basically, the two. I was trying to work out which of the two that I wanted. Basically, in terms of like how they look, they're just the same guy. One of them's a little bit older, one of them's a little bit younger. I think the difference with mine comes from the fact that I don't want a mopey beast. I want like a funny beast that actually doesn't mind going to that. You know how you're talking about he goes to that level and he can snap and he can take dudes out. I'm like, I wouldn't mind it if we had a beast that is happy enough going to that level. You know, there's not too many repercussions. So I was going to go with Jeffrey Wright, but I do think that he would very easily fall into the sad mopey beast. So
yeah, I think that's very like I love Jeffrey Wright, but I think if you look at some of his better performances, especially in like American Fiction, he kind of does that sort of my life. I like Jeffrey Wright, but I see that.
So for me, I've gone with basically the same guy, but we know this guy's funny. We know this guy's intelligent. I've gone with Jordan Peele.
Oh,
I think Jordan Peele's big, and if he looked like he's got the big now. Jordan Peele is a big shot.
I really like that. Like that. Yeah,
because you can imagine them at the start of the film, like walking into a lab, and it's Jordan Peele there, glasses on, like tapping away at a keyboard.
Yeah, I really like that. I think what do you think? This is just completely off the cuff, but in terms of like directors for this, who do you sort of see? Because apparently Disney got Jordan Peele to agree to a meeting, but apparently it didn't kind of work out, and everyone's a lot of the reaction online was, how do you not just tell Jordan Peele he can do what he wants? But his big thing is he's always said he only really wants to direct his own stories.
Yeah.
But I do think for me,
if we hadn't already spunked him away, I think James Gunn would have been a big shout for X-Men.
Yeah.
If we hadn't already cut it up, I'm not like massive on directors. There are directors that I like, but they aren't necessarily the right ones for this. I would be intrigued to see a few different versions. So, like, I think for me, I want to feel like I do actually want this to feel like a little bit like those, like maybe X-Men: The Last Stand, that sort of X-Men film where they're very much the X-Men at this point. They're very much like it can be big and colourful, and it can be just like a very self-contained story that's very direct. So I don't think
I like my pick for it. See, because like I say, I would love Peele, but obviously his kind of thing, as he said, he only wants to do his own stories. And apparently they did meet, and everyone's like, "Oh, Marvel cocked it up." I'm like, I don't know if they did. I think they just might have went, "Please do it," and he was like, I kind of just want to do my own thing.
Do you know what? I'm going to go back through my letterbox. I'm going to see like what I've watched recently and like try and find something that's like a similar vibe to where I'd go with this.
I think for me, the people I would want, and I don't know how feasible this is, and this is kind of going to give away who it is, because I think when the thing that they're famous for ends, it's really Netflix's only last remaining interesting IP. So I think Netflix are going to throw just bags and bags and bags and bags of money at them to keep them. But if we want to look at people who can do the sort of like high concept sci-fi, but also the sort of low and grounded personal stakes drama in a sort of enhanced and big world, the Duffer Brothers. I think the Duffer Brothers would be really interesting. But I also kind of think with that being Netflix's only real remaining like IP with any weight behind it, I think Netflix will probably go, here is all the money in the world, please stay and make Netflix things.
Yes, for me, like I said, I want something like quite self-contained and really quite simple and like direct. And it's just like these are your X-Men. This is the adventure that they're going on. I think that reminds me a lot of like early superhero films. So I think Sam Raimi could be a fun shout.
Oh yeah, I like
if you said to him go full Spider-Man 2 and just let it be camp, let you do what you want.
I like as well Alex Garland. He kind of does the sort of, in terms of like visually like striking stuff very well. He did obviously Ex Machina and Annihilation. He just did Civil War. I've seen a lot of people shouting for Ryan Coogler, who obviously did the Black Panther movies, and it looks like the Black Panther franchise is probably now just done because of Chadwick Boseman's passing, and you don't really want to lose an act or a director of that caliber. Yeah. I like the idea. I think for me, the dream. I mean, if they could get Jordan Peele to do it, then obviously just throw all the money at Jordan Peele. But I think for me, the Duffer Brothers are probably the best shout who probably would do it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't think this is the one to bring it up, but at some point I want to see Michael Bay do an MCU movie. Like I really do. I think that would be. I don't know if X-Men's the right one to do it. It would have been great for like an Iron Man.
Yeah.
Michael Bay would have done like a really fun Iron Man. I think if we get any like, we bring in like, I'm trying to think, what would be like a really fun. I don't know.
I'm now just googling who people have said. Let's see.
Do you know what? In terms of like the production design and like what they did in terms of like the direction, I wouldn't mind Greta Gerwig.
I was just about to say that. I think
in terms of how she can put a world together and like how things would look and like the cohesion of it all. I think that would be like a really fun to do, especially if we're going to go like very direct comic-y X-Men.
I think as well she does ensemble very well. She's proved that with Barbie and things like that. Let's see who's on this list here. Let's see. People are saying Wes Anderson. I would rather shoot myself in the mouth and watch a Wes Anderson superhero movie.
I like Wes Anderson, but do you know what? If
Noah Hawley did lead some stuff for Legion, I think he'd be fun. Yeah, Joel Schumacher.
If Joel Schumacher was still alive, like get him go full Batman and Robin on it.
But make it good this time.
Yeah.
I
do think James Gunn would have been great for an X-Men.
Yeah,
but you can't just rinse and repeat James Gunn though.
Yeah, Ava DuVernay as well. I think she'd be a lot of fun. Oh, that's a really good shout. Bong Joon-ho, the guy who did Parasite, works well with sort of big casts and making people all feel unique and different. I've seen a couple of other things of his that are fun. I do think Jordan Peele's the ideal, though.
David Leitch did Fall Guy. He also did
Bullet Train. Love Bullet Train.
Deadpool, Bullet Train. He's done some of the Fast and Furious.
Deadpool. Yeah.
He helped out on the Michael Bay Ninja Turtle films. He's helped out on Wolverine. He's helped out on Captain America Civil War. I think if you want that very direct, like self-contained, very like premier action blockbuster,
and make it fun as well.
Yeah, like a fun action adventure movie, like a classic superhero movie. I think David Leitch is probably like a really good pick, especially like Fall Guy was such like that felt like something we've not had in a while, like a proper action. And I feel like if we want to bring Marvel back to the Marvel we've not had in a while, that could be a fun way of doing it. Of like, let this guy make a real fun film. He's probably him or Gerwig are probably my two that I would follow.
I think as well, like one thing that I think is a shame, regardless, I think because Nia DaCosta spoke very openly about wanting to do X-Men, and Marvel kind of love promoting in-house. You look at like Shackman. Shackman did some WandaVision, and now he's got the Fantastic Four. And like, you know, they sort of like to promote with people who have done sort of things and give them bigger projects. Like, I think, did they not say Destin Daniel Cretton, who did Shang-Chi, was going to get one of Avengers 5 or 6? And I think it's a shame. I think it's such a shame that...
Did they not say he was getting one and Coogler was getting one? Or
maybe.
I feel like that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Let me have a.
But I don't know, because I feel like one of them's going to be the Black Panther team.
Yeah, I feel like Black Panther feels like Coogler and his team feel very nailed on, and I think especially with what kind of feels like. Let's see. Okay, so they announced they've announced, but they've then unannounced directors for those movies.
Right.
But I just think they feel very.
They kind
obvious.
of like they like to leave people in one place, don't they? So they gave So it was like Gunn was obviously doing Guardians. You had like Jon Favreau and was it Shane Miller that did looked after Iron Man. Shane Black, and then you had and then you had the Russos who were very much in charge of Captain America and the Avengers. Yeah. You had I think they're obviously going into a way where it's Destin Daniel Cretton will be your Shang-Chi guy. Coogler will be your Black Panther guy.
Yeah, I think it's such a shame. Like I said, they do like to promote in-house, and I don't think it's a perfect movie by any stretch, but I enjoyed the Marvels. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think
I've not seen it yet.
So I really enjoyed Miss Marvel, and I think oh my god, what's her name? Iman Vellani. I think Iman Vellani is so much fun and just feels like the exact essence of the Miss Marvel character. Yeah. I think Brie Larson as well gets a lot of stick, but Brie Larson gets stick because weird men on the internet hate her for some reason.
I think that Captain Marvel in the MCU is she's just not there enough. I feel like if she was more present, then it wouldn't be as much of an issue. But she's just not present.
Yeah. But I think so. Don't get me wrong. The Marvels has its issues, but the issues with the Marvels don't really feel like it was the fault of Nia DaCosta. It kind of feels like you need to use this person, and it's got to be this, and it's got to leave us here, and it's got to kind of follow on from Secret Invasion, which was absolutely dog shit. And I feel like that's a shame because I feel like Nia DaCosta was probably being eyed to take X-Men, and then the Marvels lost the most money that any Marvel movie has ever lost through the fault of not her. And I think it's one of those things. I think Marvel are going to essentially gaslight themselves into going, that's because of Nia DaCosta and not because of the choices we made.
I've just had a light bulb moment. So you remember Fant Four Stick, right?
Josh Trank, yeah.
Obviously, the whole issue was that with studio interference, but there were moments in that way, you see in the lab, chemistry's all there, and they're kind of
I think those
moments.
You see it if you want in other Josh Trank projects too.
If you want lab moments where they're all kind of they're going to have a good chemistry, they're going to bounce off each other. They're kind of obviously you've got Jordan Peele kind of up doing his thing, tapping around the keys, and Ryan Gosling in his ear winding him up. I think Josh Trank would be a fun one to do, and it'd be nice to give him a chance to redeem himself.
Yeah. 100%. Like I say, for me, my dream, I think my top three is Nia DaCosta, if they give her another chance, Jordan Peele, and the Duffer Brothers.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Gerwig would be that. And who was the other one I mentioned earlier? There was I don't know. But Gerwig is definitely. Yes, those are kind of my two.
Yeah, I think they're all. I mean, listen, all of them are your picks. But anyway, thank you for joining us as we've yapped on the inaugural episode of Fans Casting. You and I had a wonderful time. I would like to do this again with the villains and the giant-sized X-Men if you'll return.
Oh, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, now, Ewan, this is your time to plug. Plug away, good sir.
Okay, so I do a channel on YouTube called The Main Stage, where we talk about festivals and music, so it's very different to this whole situation. But yeah, we nerd out about other things over there. Jake is occasionally featured on there, and will be more. So The Main Stage is where you can find me on YouTube. I've also got a TikTok, which should just be The Main Stage as well, and my Twitter is @Ewan The Main Stage. So it's all pretty much in line. That's about that in terms of plugging.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning into the first episode of Fans Casting. Let us know in the comments who you would have as all your X-Men, who you would have direct. And yeah, just let us know your thoughts on this. Leave it a like, share it around with your friends. Let everyone know to come subscribe to The Main Stage and Jake Talks Capes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.